What I want to talk about is overwhelm. I want to talk about challenges. I want to talk about decision. I want to talk about trauma. And I want to talk about changes in humans today and what a lot of people are dealing with, right? Hey, what's up, Pat? Mandy, what's happening? And what a lot of people are dealing with in life today. So the first thing is, how do we tackle overwhelm, right? And I understand overwhelm because when you have a family, you get overwhelmed before you figure out how to grow a business. Like, I've helped a lot of people build businesses, and like when they first met me, they were building a business. They're just like scattered. They're all over the place. They don't know what to do. They don't know how to think. They think small. They don't know how to make moves. They don't know how to make decisions. And then once I teach them how to deal and make decisions, then they grow big companies, and then then all of a sudden, everybody becomes a hot shot today and stuff. Like, it's the way of the world. But it's funny because overwhelm comes in at all different levels of this, right? You have overwhelm when you have nothing and you're struggling. You have overwhelm when you're doing millions of dollars and the kids are small. You have overwhelm when you're doing like 30 million in your company and your family's growing up. Then you have overwhelm when your kids are teenagers and the teenagers are going about life, and all of a sudden they're out of town and something happens to them, and there's overwhelm there. And then there's over societal overwhelm, right? So you deal with societal overwhelm. It's like COVID comes in and people are afraid, and what do they do? And then there's gas price overwhelm and inflation overwhelm. And then there's overwhelm of decisions. Do I buy a home, sell a home, buy a second home? Do I invest in property? Do I invest in the stock market, right? And all of this starts to bubble over and create a subconscious state of anxiety and sometimes a subconscious state of depression, and sometimes these become conscious states of depression and anxiety, and all of a sudden you just bubble over and you don't know how to function. It feels like everything's running at you so fast that you don't know what the next damn step is to do. So, like, let's really look at what overwhelm is. And I want you to look at overwhelm and imagine that we have a circuit board. Let's imagine we have a grid. Okay, so we have lines. I don't know how to really share a tablet on this. I haven't really done that, but I'll draw it in the air, right? So let's imagine we have like a grid of lines. And then in this grid of lines, we start popping things in life on there. Elderly parent problems, health problems, mind problems, past problems, I don't know who I am type problem. I'm afraid to tell the world who I really am. A lot of that's happening today, right? Like, I'm feminine, but I don't want to show people I want to show them I'm masculine, right? So I have all these things on this grid. Now, the thing is, your brain doesn't know how to process these. It doesn't, because the brain has this grid process. It has, well, your mom dealt with things like this. Your dad dealt with things like this. And I used to tell people the quickest way through overwhelm is to find somebody who's not overwhelmed over what you're dealing with and can peel back and really listen to the language, the patterns, the habits, the behaviors, and what you've done and what you're doing today. And then you could see, like, one step of overwhelm today is people are really bad at saying no and very good at saying yes, right? But if you have your North Star, and you know exactly where you're going in life, right? You're like, that's my North Star. My North Star, like for me, one of my North Stars was to become debt free. And my wife and I, we did that at 28 years old. We became debt free. Was way before I built a big company, way before I had a lot of employees. I just knew how a simple formula of make more, spend less. And I knew that how debt-free would feel, and the emotion of, hey, what's up, Chris? What's up, Sherry? The emotions of living debt-free was always going to feel a lot more than the weight of emotional debt and overwhelm of debt, right? It's one of the biggest conflicts in relationships is like, can't afford things, can't have things, thought we would have things by now. And so if you look at that state, right, and where that overwhelm is, and then you know where you want to go, well, then you ask yourself, well, what am I saying yes to that I really don't want to say yes to? And type in the chat bar, how many of you say yes to things that you don't want to say yes to? Hey, what's up, Greg? Like, you don't want to say yes to it, but you say yes to it. And then you complain about saying yes to it, or you try to get out of saying yes to it. And just instead of saying, well, no, I can't do that. I won't do that. That doesn't fit where I want to go, right? It doesn't fit what I want to accomplish. And so when you have this overwhelm, and overwhelm starts to create challenges, and if you have enough challenges, it will create health problems, physical health and mental health problems, right? And mental health problems are normally, not all, a combination of many circuit and program problems inside your mind based off past experiences. Now, it could be energetically where you don't know. It could be generationally that you don't know. But the majority of it is programmed. And then what happens is, and hopefully nobody will like freak out, but like people will get in a state where, you know, they're dealing with these problems, they're dealing with situations, they're dealing with overwhelm, and the only thing they know how to do is shut down or sedate it. Now, people hate when I talk about this because normally they're the ones sedating things, but I'm just telling you, like, I understand that from a human behavior side is like, you know, if you can't change the wiring, the only thing you could do is take something to mask the wiring. And it doesn't help the overwhelm and challenges. It actually makes it worse because every time you come back to a state of like baseline, you have to face the same problem again, right? It's like my big pet peeve. Like people go, I have to work on my relationship. So we're going on vacation. Hey, what's up, Mark? Like we're going to go on vacation and that's going to help our relationship. Okay. So everybody in the chat bar, tell me the truth. You went on a vacation, you came back, your relationship was fixed forever. It was totally improved. Like everything was amazing. And all the things that your wife disliked about you or your husband, where you put your shoes, the pet peeves, how you act, the money problems, the stress, the behaviors, like you came back from a week in Cancun and it was all better. Does that happen? It's like date night. You went on date night. It's all better. Like, date night never made it all better for me and my wife, right? We tried that date night stuff, Chris. We were like, oh, well, all the gurus say like date your wife. Well, first off, I don't want to date my wife. I'm in a long-lasting commitment with my wife. I don't want to date her because when you date someone, you're not committed. So why the hell would I ever want to date my wife if I'm in a committed connection with her? I don't want to do that. And the second thing, we went out and all we did was talk about the kids and then come back and nothing was ever solved. See, until we started to do real work, real understanding and grow together, nothing was solved. And all it did was add to overwhelm and challenges because how many of you are trying to figure you out, but you're also trying to solve someone else? Tell me in the chat bar, like be transparent, right? Like you're trying to just figure you out, right? But you're trying to solve somebody else. Well, first off, you can't solve someone else. So what do? Here's a real simple way to deal with overwhelm, and then we'll talk about challenges. First off, overwhelm is thinking of so many things at one time and not having a processing system, a mental processing system that can solve it. Because if your brain could solve the overwhelm, you wouldn't have the overwhelm. Why do people work with mentors or coaches why did I work with 7 coaches at one time? It was really simple. I had a problem. They had a wiring and a solution. I did not have that solution in my mind. I didn't have that processing system. Now, once they gave me the solution, I noticed something about myself is that I couldn't solve using someone else's solution until I understood and believed their solution. Like, crazy example. If someone says, oh, you have a problem with your neighbor, shoot them. Well, I don't believe in that solution. It sounds like I'm going to go to jail or something. But if someone says you have a problem with your neighbor, why don't we first understand, like, what is the problem? Is it the neighbor? Is it the way you're perceiving things? Is it the way something that you think a framework should be done? Like, what is the real problem? And that's how come I've been able to move at a speed faster than most people. Not all, but I think a lot, because I know that I can only solve a problem at the speed of my thinking of all my programming from the past to solve the problem. The fact is, I wouldn't have the problem if I had the processor of already solving the problem. Just kind of think about that a minute. I would never have gotten to the problem if I had the mind process to solve the problem. Like, that's that's what my wife and I, like, we're so fortunate what we do. My son's in our world, Aaron. We're so fortunate to help people because we help them solve life problems faster than everything else. And life problems are the real problems. Thinking problems are the real problems. Processing problems are the real problems. Life challenge problems are the real problems. See, when you learn how to solve those and you optimize yourself, building wealth, building companies, I don't mean to, I don't mean to make anybody feel bad here, but like, the fact is, I've been saying it for 20 years. Like, I could teach a monkey how to grow a business. I can't teach a monkey how to strategically think and optimize themselves to make growing a business really, really simple, right? Like, that takes skill, optimizing yourself. It's the number one thing I learned the last 2 years now, is that so many people are investing so much time in, like, marketing, sales, operation systems and denying the number one thing. Like, well, why don't we remove overwhelm? Why don't we learn how to deal with challenges? Why don't we optimize our thinking? Like, because if you had it at that level, then why aren't you at the level of wealth of 50 million, 100 million, 500 million? Like, why are you not already way beyond? You know what? Overwhelm creates a sense of complacency and comfort. It does. It does. Like, I meet so many successful people like, oh, I'm doing 15 million. I'm like, oh, look at you, big boy. Look at you, big girl. Go, girl. Aren't you incredible? Okay, why are you not doing 50 million? Why are you not doing 100? Why are you not living where you want to live? Why don't you have the house you want to? Why don't you have the life you want? Why do you call it work? Like, anybody who calls what they do work is already dealing with an overwhelm and a challenge. Just the fact that they call something work instead of life. In calling it work instead of calling it, their passion. If you're not doing something that's your passion, well, then you're never going to accomplish at the levels that you want. Hey, what's up, Jack? Nice to see you. Thanks for joining me. So, overwhelm. Here's a great way. Grab a bunch of, I got sticky notes all over the place. And this one says work on level up. We have a cool training coming up the end of September called Level Up, where we're helping people go to the very next level in their life. And so everything that you're dealing with, just take sticky notes, hundreds of sticky notes, and just regulate those sticky notes by the level of complexity and the level of weight that you feel they hold. So maybe you have a green, a yellow, and red sticky note, and maybe red is an overwhelm that causes a state of paralysis, a state of being stuck. And you write down, like, maybe dealing with your mother-in-law or dealing with your mom or dealing with your dad or the neighbor or your boss, whatever. And, like, just make 100 sticky notes and put them on the wall, because now you have a reality of, whoa. When you drag an anchor, it rarely goes more shallow. It normally goes deeper. It normally drags deeper, right? And that's what overwhelm is like. Like, dragging an anchor that keeps digging in its roots deeper and deeper to, at one point, the way that you get rid of the anchor is you either learn how to process different or the boat sinks. When the boat sinks, the anchor will just let go of itself because it will just sit still. Eventually, the current will just wash it. The whole thing just sinks to the ocean floor. This is the point where people hit such a state of fatigue where they just nervous meltdown, they just have a life crash on that. But now you can go to the yellow things, like, what's overwhelming me a little bit, but not, it doesn't shut me down. like dealing with the kids, they leave their stuff all over, or the dishwasher is never emptied, or the clothes is backed up, or the house isn't clean. Maybe that's not a red. Maybe for you it is. It's not for me to judge. But like those are yellow things. It's like a yellow bright. It's like I'm in a state of yield. Like it bothers me, but it doesn't create a complete overwhelm. But then like green is like a little things like, hey, my husband or wife was supposed to be home for dinner and they're not. Like it doesn't cause overwhelm, but it causes a little bit of resistance and pressure. Hey, what's up, Kevin? Aaron, what's happening? Right? It just causes resistance. Like if you look at overwhelm and you look at challenges, you're just dealing with resistance of some kind, right? Resistance in your mind. Like it's like, oh man, I have so many things. I'm like, okay, but like, let's just bracket them. And just so you know, I've never really taught this before, but when we talk about processes, and since I've grown a large service company to 32 million, sold it, grew the largest training and implementation organization called CEO Warriors, sold that in 2020. I still own shares in that company. And what I learned was that I never shared is that the number one process to build a company is your process inside of you. It's the number one asset nobody invests. Like you are the process. You are the system. And if you don't have processes and systems inside of you, you'll never have processes and systems outside of you. And then it causes chaos and overwhelm and challenges. And then you lose, instead of having a sense of certainty, you live in a state of chaos. Do me a favor. First off, if you're getting value, type in value in the chat bar. And if you already got a takeaway like, oh man, I got to think about this a little deeper, I got to take action, type that in the chat bar too while I take a drink of water here. Also, tell me if you're digging the videos. I can't promise I'll do them every night because we do have a lot of projects that we're working on. Especially we have this event in September. We're doing a ton of work. It takes a ton to put together. It's on this beach house on the beach. It's really amazing. We have this Freedom Tribe program we run in this mastery level program. And we put a lot of time and energy into our members to help them optimize their life and stuff. But if you are digging it and you're finding massive value, well, then I'll do my best to keep doing these for you. Okay. All right. So now we segmented. We took all the things that cause overwhelm and we put it on paper. But then there's another circle. Is it just your overwhelm that causes overwhelm, or is there a secondary circle of overwhelm? There is, right? So circle one is you. Circle two is the forces that are closest to you that you feel bring overwhelm into your world. So now we go to our kids, we go to our husband or wife, we go to our parents, right? That's semi-circle number two. And I say to myself, now I have to red, yellow, green this overwhelm, right? Like, oh, my mom causes me this overwhelm, or my wife, she brings me her problems and that brings me overwhelm because I can't solve her problems for her. So now you're going to see the compounding effect of overwhelm and challenges right now. So now what we do is there's another circle. That circle's the third circle. So now that's where you work, your community, your church, your employees. That's another circle. And then they have overwhelm. I don't know about you, but like when I'm an electrician by trade. A lot of you know that. And like, I really was like an electrician on the job, but sometimes I was a therapist for the customer. Sometimes I was a friend to the customer. Sometimes I was a support system. If you could relate, type in relate in the chat bar. Like I remember people, I'm like wiring an electrical panel and they're telling me about like, yeah, my wife, she wants to leave me. And I'm like, oh my goodness, this is going to be like, I got to tack on electrical plus therapy charge here, right? So now there's this other third circle, right? Where it's your customers, your employees. You know how many employees come in? What's going on? Oh, I left my wife. My wife left me. I'm on pills. I'm drinking too much. You know what I mean? My car got repoed. You know, my car broke down. And it's like, oh my goodness. But you think that it's a problem. It's not. It's a tier of overwhelm. It depends on what level of tier on how that stacks on you. So then we go out another tier. Is this giving, type in like, a smile face or a fist. If this is adding a little bit of light to you on how unspoken overwhelm and where it comes. Now we go to the news thing, right? We go to news thing. So now on the news tells you, well, we got COVID and you got to get vaccine, you got to do this and that. And that brings a level of overwhelm to you. And then the banking, that brings a level of overwhelm to you. And inflation, and that brings a level of overwhelm. And then they got to come out with the monkeypox now. So that brings a level of overwhelm. So that's another tier. And then you have your big global overwhelm, right? Like war in Ukraine. So you really think that you're dealing with your overwhelm, but you're not. You're dealing with like 5 layers of trickle down overwhelm. And how you process that overwhelm, how you process that energy, how you process that thinking depends on if this becomes challenges or opportunities, right? For me, a lot of it becomes opportunities because as I evaluate things, I try to look for my truth, not your truth, right? Write that down, everybody. Like, find your truth. I'm always looking for my truth. So when somebody tells me, when they tell me things and they say like, this is the truth, you must take this pill, you must take this shot, you must drink this thing, you must think this way. I say, okay, why is that your truth? Why should it be my truth? And is it my truth? Is it my truth? The body is such an amazing, interesting thing, everybody. It really is. I do when, this is, in September is the first live event that we're doing for Food Dog Group, which is really cool. I'm super excited. Well, live, big event. We've done some little things. And you could test this yourself if you want. They call it kinesiology testing, if you're not familiar with it. So what happens is like, imagine my arm is out like this and I feel how much pressure I could push on my arm. And then like I hold this bottle of water. Well, might as well take a drink while I'm at it. You take a drink too. Stay hydrated while you're with me. And I hold this bottle of water and I put it here on my heart and I test my arm. And if it's strong, it's like, oh, this is good. You do this with your family tonight. Like have a little bit of fun with it. And then go and grab whiskey or something. And some of you are like, F you, Mike, don't mess with the whiskey. I'm just telling you, just try it. Just try it. So take the bottle of whiskey, the bottle of beer, the bottle of whatever, hold it to your heart and tell somebody, push down on my arm. And if your arm is weak, you'll go, F you, Mike, I don't believe you. Give me the bottle of water again. So you do the water and it's strong. The body internally is such a mechanical process system. It knows what is good for you and what is not good for you. You can literally do this. My chiropractor, he does a lot of this. Hey, Tim, what's happening? He does a lot of this kinesiology. When I go there, he goes, let me see if your shoulder's out. He's like, put your thumb and your pinky together. And he rubs it on a certain muscle and he tries to pull my fingers apart. He goes, no, it's not. And then he goes like this. He goes, and it goes apart. He goes, your shoulder's out here. Pops it in. And then he goes again. And it works all the time. He's been doing it probably a decade. He's been working on me doing that type stuff. And then one time he said to me, and hopefully if this, for some of you, if it's opening your eyes or maybe a new reminder, type in the chat bar, opening eyes or reminder. So then he says, you might be calcium deficient. So I'm like, okay, well, how would I know I'm calcium deficient? He goes, well, hang on a minute. And he goes and he gets calcium pills and he puts this is another way, kinesiology. I'll show you one, how to test. If you want to see how to test for your truth, type in truth in the chat bar and I'll show you a cool test and you can play with it a little bit and tell me, yeah, it worked, or F you, Mike, you're out of your mind, which I'm okay with both things you think. So he goes and he takes tablets of calcium and he puts 5 in my hand. And I make my thumb and he pulls it and it pulls apart. And then he adds another one, pulls apart, and he adds another one, it don't pull apart. He goes, you got to take 6 of those pills every day. I'm like, you're kidding me. He goes, do you want me to show you again? Hold your pinky and thumb together. Pulls it in, and he does it. I take the pills, the calcium pills that he tells me the amount, and all of a sudden, my shoulders have no problem again. Everything fixes itself, right? So let me give you, so I gave you a fun thing to do, and I learned this. My wife and I learned this. I mean, we've been together since we're 15, so like we've had a lot of crazy, unique, wild experiences together. And we used to do this stuff. Jen, you remember, like, we were doing this with Donda and my instructor, 30 years ago. Maybe over 30 years ago, we were doing this type of stuff. Energy testing, kinesiology testing, and so much other wild stuff that we were doing. And so, test that out. But let me give you the one for truth. And I actually bought, they made a tool one time. I bought it. It was like a spring tester. You can look it up, but you don't need to do it. Here was a really simple one. And would you tell me if you'll entertain me tonight? Like, you'll entertain me, and we'll just try this a little bit. Type in entertainment or entertain in the chat bar, and we'll just do it. We'll do it together, and I'll show you how to move through overwhelm and challenges and make decisions really, really fast tonight on your most internal belief system. This is a subconscious test to help you make decisions. Okay, if you're not familiar, all right, Chris says, all in, Chris says, if you're not familiar with conscious and subconscious, okay, conscious is you hearing me and you're thinking of things and you're making opinions. Mike's a good guy. Mike's out of his mind. Mike says, put beer on my chest to make sure it's healthy or not, right? You're making all these conscious things based off of your past belief systems. Now, your past belief systems, Stacy, your past belief systems are everything in your subconscious mind. Everything you ever tasted, ever heard, ever felt, if you were ever smacked, bullied, pointed, talked down to, it's all on a CD player inside your mind. They call that subconscious. Now, if you could handle a little more, I'll teach you a little bit above this. Type in above, Mark Dahl. Type in above if you want me to teach you above this a little bit. Like, what's above conscious and subconscious? All right. And okay, let me tell you what's above it. It's called superconscious. Okay. Now, superconscious is your belief that you have a soul, you have a spirit, you have an energy force, a universal field. That's called superconscious. Okay. That's at a point where everything is perfect. Nothing is broken. Nothing is good. Nothing is bad. Everything is pure. Okay? And sometimes, DJ, we forget, right? We forget that on our innermost soul side, nothing's broken. You're amazing. Your soul does not look at you and go, hey, looks like you put on a couple pounds. Your soul doesn't look at you that way. So that's the superconscious. All right, let me give you this simple exercise. We're all going to do it together, and then you're going to type in the chat bar like, holy crap, Mike, that's cool, that's good, or no, it doesn't make any sense to me. Okay? And all answers are great. I'm honored you're hanging out with me tonight. You know what I love about this? Because the screen's good. Like, I have the Food Dog shirt on here, but like, I have my pajamas on under. You don't believe me? I'll show you this. Like, what do you wear? Mark Dahl, check these out. Okay, I'm going to show Mark Dahl. All right, Mark Dahl, come on. Are these sexy or what? I don't know if they are or not, but they're comfortable. My wife's like, are you out of your mind? What is with you tonight showing your pajamas? I just wanted to show you, like, I'm not like all dressed up. I'm just like hanging out with you tonight. Okay, here we go. Take your thumb and your pointer finger and put it together like this. So there's pressure. Okay? Like go to like break it and hold it tight. Hold it tight. Okay, so you can't go through it. Are you with me? Am I doing it? Like, here's the circle. Put your finger in there and push. I'm using this so you can see it easier. And push, and so it doesn't break through. Now, we just have to, you're amazing and you suck at the same time. Thank you. Okay, so back to this. So now we have to calibrate what's a yes and what's a no. Okay, so now I'm going to ask a simple question. And I'm going to decide, is it going to stay strong or is it going to push through? Okay, you're going to do this with me. So let me say, my name is Mike. Okay, it's strong. It's not going through. That's my name is Mike. My name's Mike. So that's a yes. That's a truth for me. That's yes. My name is George. My name's not George. It goes right through. So calibrate your finger with a yes or no and tell me when you're done. Mark says he's just glad I have something on. My wife too. She's probably glad too, Mark. And Mark, happy birthday. I saw it was your birthday just like a week ago. So happy birthday, brother. All right, so calibrate. And when you have it calibrated, like you know what's a yes and what's a no, tell me in the chat bar, calibrated. Type in calibrated. Come on, stay with me on it. I know some of you are like, whoa, Mike, this is like voodoo. It's not voodoo, it's your body. It's your conscious mind. It's your energy. Don't let the world try to condition you that like you have to think a certain a certain way. Okay, just try it on with me and let's see how it goes. So let's see if you're calibrated. All right, Ray's calibrated. Ray's good job, Ray. Who else? Okay, Chris is calibrated. Who else? Okay, Joe, calibrated. All right, now let's make a decision. Now remember, you consciously may not like the decision, but subconsciously know the right thing to do. Take one of your overwhelms. Take one of your overwhelming challenges that you've been waiting. So if you want to start with something simple, go to your Amazon cart like you were going to buy a blender. And let's start real simple and be like, should I buy the blender? No. Okay, kill it. Kill it. That's how fast it is. Your internal energy, consciousness says, don't do it. Okay, so now pick something and I want you to taste. I want you to check it. Okay? I want you to check it out. Okay, Jacob, pick one. Should I buy this? Should I change this relationship? Should I go to this party? Should I buy this car? Should I invest in this stock? And start to test it and tell me if it's on track or off track. See, the more you're in tune with yourself, the quicker you can make decisions faster. Now, is this a fail-safe? No, I normally gut check with coaches and mentors. I have some of the, because of my life and the chances I took and the investments I made, I'm connected with some of the top people in the world, right? I'm connected with guys like Jay Abraham or Kevin Harrington, one of the original Sharks of Shark Tank. So, like, even though I'm like, yes, I'm like, hang on, man, just confirming. What are your thoughts? He's like, well, let me ask you a question. I'm like, it's a yes. Let's move forward. All right, so let's see what you guys are doing. My calibration must be broken. Why do you say it's broken? You don't like the answer? Or tell me, DJ, like, why is it broken? Like, because then you start to question yourself, right? Seems to work. Okay, we'll keep doing it until there's a belief system, right? Till there's a belief system. Because here's the thing. Your highest energy, your highest soul, your highest internal self does know the truth for you. It may conflict against your conscious, what your parents told you, what the government tells you, what the news tells you, what your neighbor tells you, what your wife or husband, it might conflict against that. That's up to you on how you deal with that. Okay, mixed response, Chris says. Okay, because you have, what's happening there is you're challenging your truth. That's all. That's all. Okay. My energy soul alignment. Okay, cool. I held circle. It didn't work for me. I said my name was Mike. Okay. So now Maybe yours is holding is not true and breaking through is true. Remember, it could be the opposite. It's not the same for everybody. It's not the same for everybody. Okay? And this is all about like how much can you get your brain to understand how to process, how to deal, how to move through things. And it works with everybody who gets in tune with it. I promise you. I've never had anybody that didn't get in tune. But you have to believe in things that are outside the traditional concept that you thought of, right? Like, do you really believe every war started the way that... Tell me in the chat bar, do you believe every war started the way you were taught the war was started? Gad, am I challenging you a little bit tonight? Like, do you believe, like, everything they told you on how, like... Do you believe, like, how the economy is changing is because of what somebody's telling you? Like, do you believe that? Is that true? Right? Like, the point is, how can you get to truth? Now, let's go back to the original. Overwhelm and challenges. How do you process overwhelm and challenges? And how do you make decisions to move past overwhelm and challenges? My wife and I work on this all the time. We're like, how can I live? Like, how can we live with this challenge we're dealing with? Well, our reality of what the challenge is. Our reality on how we want to perceive our challenge. Our reality on what we think. Are we in control, out of control? Can we control it? Right? I'm reversed. Holy crap, it worked. Yeah, because DJ, it's different for everybody. It's different for everybody, right? Sometimes it breaks through, sometimes it's not. But once you have it, it's dialed in. It's dialed in. Okay. All right. Let me give you one last piece. If you reinforce your challenges and you tell everybody about your challenges and you tell everybody about your problems and you tell everybody about your situation. I lost money. My car broke. My wife or husband left me. And the more you tell people this, the bigger challenge it becomes, the bigger that becomes your identity. Okay? Your identity is what you speak about yourself. Okay? That's your identity. It's what you speak about yourself. If you speak broken thoughts, your identity is a broken human. If you speak powerful thoughts, your identity is a powerful person. If you speak scarcity, so if you didn't listen to yesterday's conversation I had about scarcity and poverty, you should go listen to it. And if you haven't heard my training that I did about chaos, go listen to it. If you can't find it, hit me up. I'll make sure the team gets it to you. If you didn't listen to the training on certainty, I'll give it to you. And if you didn't listen to relationship, I'll give it to you. Okay? Because what happens is your identity creates your outcomes. And the more and the way you speak to others and to yourself reinforce and expands your identity. If your identity is I'm broken, I'm divorced, there's no good employees, okay? The world sucks, people suck. You expand that and that becomes who you are and you live within that field. And then it's a lot more difficult there. It's very different there. And most people don't want to live there because they're like, well, wait, I don't understand. Why? I'm positive all the time. Okay, you shouldn't be. Now you're putting your hand up, right? Like, Mike, come on, stop. You shouldn't be positive all the time. Sometimes you should be positive. Sometimes you should be negative. If we didn't have positive and negative, tell me, would we have electricity? Tell me in the chat bar. Would we have a world if there was no positive pole and negative pole? Would we have a universe that functions at least the way we think it does? No, we wouldn't. Right? You need to have positive. You need to have negative. You don't want to have an overabundance of each one. You want to be where it's equal. All right. Is this value for you guys tonight at 9:49 at night, at least Eastern for me, while I'm wearing my pajamas for you guys and stuff? Okay. All right. So tell me right now before we go, because I like to shut down around now and I have some training. I still want to do some training tonight. Not physical training. My son did a good job with us on that. I want to do some mental training before I go to bed. And if any of you are interested in what I got going on with the Freedom Tribe or September event, hit me up. I'll tell you if I have any space or anything. And I'll see tomorrow night if you guys are doing that. But I want to know your action item. What are you going to do now? You hung out. Don't make this entertainment. Go to Netflix for entertainment. Come here for transformation. Is that cool? Can we do that? Like, go to Netflix and Amazon Prime for entertainment. Hang out with me because you want transformation. And all I want to know is like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this now. My wife put our Facebook group. We're modifying our Facebook group from the name. It's turning into Entrepreneur and Business Owner Millionaire Mastery because we're going to start working. Chad, do me a favor. Just PM me, man. Just send me a PM message and ask me anything and I'll get back to you. We're going to start focusing on business owners and entrepreneurs and how to optimize them in that Facebook group and start creating higher levels of individual mastery for them. Okay, cool. Have to push through to transform? Yeah, you will. You don't have to push through. You have to remove resistance. All right, everybody. Time to go. Love you guys. Maybe I'll see you tomorrow night. Share this. Can you share this with people? We're going to impact 1 million people or more in a decade or less in 100 countries or more, and you're part of that. The more you share this, the more we change the world, the better the world would be, the better for generations to come. Boom.